Shlama. Shalom. Peace to you all. Blessings from the Most High, Maria, Allah, or God, and Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth. Today we ask, as we present this video, if Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Christ, according to the biblical scriptures, first, in the Americanized Modern Bible Version, the Passion Translation, one of many, it states, Jesus prophesies the destruction of the temple. Matthew 24, 1-2. As Jesus was leaving the temple courts, his disciples came to him and pointed out the beautiful architecture of the temple. That's where everybody worshipped. And Jesus turned to them and said, take a good look at all these things. For I'm telling you, there will be not one stone left upon another. It will all be levelled. And looking at the original, ancient, or very old, hidden and preserved Galilean Aramaic, translated into English by native-born Aramaic-speaking Mesopotamian Victor N. Alexander, Matthew 24, 1-2 reads as, and Joshua, or Ishua, Jesus the Messiah, left the temple to go, and his disciples came to show him the temple building. He told them, however, behold, or look, do you not see all these? Amen, I am telling you. Or truly, truly, yes, yes, I am telling you. Not one stone thus shall remain upon another without it being unravelled. Unravelled means ruined. And as Joshua or Ishua sat on the mountain, there came to him his disciples, and they were saying amongst themselves, and to him, tell us when these things occur. When will these things occur? And what is a sign that will reveal to us and into the world? Here it doesn't seem he's explaining to them why that temple will be destroyed, and when, what hour, etc. He seems to go on about other things. He may get to where the temple, why the temple has been destroyed, and who will do it, further into this chapter, but it doesn't look like that. And we found a blog or website that talks about the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. O Jerusalem, thou that killeth the prophets, by Darrell G. Young. Matthew 23:37, Luke 19:41-44. And it goes on about the modern city of Jerusalem having 11 gates, of which only 7 gates are open, etc. You can read this in your own time. We're looking at this verse here. Again, Matthew 24, 1-2. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple, or to show him. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Do you not see all these things? Verily, I say unto you, those that are standing there with him, it's probably his disciples, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And there's some information here about the temple being destroyed and so forth. In 70 AD is the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall. The Wailing Wall, as it is known in the West, or Western Wall, derived from Hebrew, Romanized Hakotel, Hama Aravi, literally the Western Wall, often shortened to the Kotel or Kosel, known in Islam as the Burak Wall, is an ancient limestone wall in the old city of Jerusalem. It is a relatively small segment of a far longer ancient retaining wall known also in its entirety as the Western Wall. The wall was originally erected as part of the expansion of the Second Jewish Temple, begun by Herod the Great, which resulted in the encasement of the natural steep hill known to Jews and to Christians as the Temple Mount, in a huge rectangular structure topped by a flat platform, thus creating the more space for the temple itself, its auxiliary bodies and crowds of worshippers and visitors. If there's a Western Wall there, what did it just say here? It is a relatively small segment of a far longer ancient retaining wall. Retaining walls are relatively rigid walls used for supporting soil laterally so that it can be retained at different levels on the two sides. Retaining walls are structures designed to restrain soil to a slope that would naturally keep together. There's a wall there. You see most of these walls around today, cities and stuff, with the dirt might erode. So they build this wall to hold it back, to hold it up. It is a relatively small segment of a far longer ancient retaining wall, known also in its entirety as the Western Wall. The wall was originally erected as part of the expansion of the Second Jewish Temple, the Jewish Holy Temple, which stood on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem between around 516 BCE and circa 70 CE, defined as the Second Temple period. So before that, in 30 to 32 AD, before Christ was executed, resurrected and ascended into heaven, the kingdom of God sit on the right hand side of his Father, he made a prophecy that this temple that they were all looking at, standing outside of, would be destroyed and not one stone would remain on the other. The temple would be totally ruined. So the wall was originally erected as part of the expansion of the Second Jewish Temple, begun by Herod the Great. Herod I, also known as Herod the Great, was a Roman client king of Judea, referred to as the Herodian Kingdom. He is known for his colossal building projects throughout Judea, including his renovation of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. Yes, he was a great architect apparently. Maybe a mixture of Arabic and Jewish. Edomite, apparently. Edomite. So this Second Jewish Temple, begun by Herod the Great, resulted in the encasement of the natural steep hill known to Jews and Christians as the Temple Mount, in a huge rectangular structure topped by a flat platform, thus creating more space for the temple itself, its auxiliary buildings and crowds of worshippers and visitors. So that's the Temple Mount there. Right. It's not up on a hill where Herod built something like Masada and then it was overrun by the Romans, who then supposedly witnessed through Josephus, I believe, that they all committed suicide. I don't believe that. I believe the Romans got so hacked off that they were almost defeated, kept back for ages by these Jews up on this hill. They got really irate and killed them all. But that's only my assumption, speculation, yet to be proved. In one of several varying Muslim traditions, it is the site where the Islamic prophet Muhammad tied his winged steed, so his horse had wings, al-Buraq, on his Isra and Miraj to Jerusalem. Is that like a mission or journey? To Jerusalem before ascending to paradise, and constitutes the western border of Al-Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Western Wall's holiness in Judaism is a result of its proximity to the Temple Mount. Because of the Temple Mount entry restrictions, the wall is the holiest place where Jews are permitted to pray. That's the Wailing Wall, right? Though the foundation stone, the most sacred site in the Jewish faith, lies behind it. The original natural and irregular shaped Temple Mount was gradually extended to allow for an ever large temple compound to be built at its top. This process was finalized by Herod, who enclosed the mount with an almost rectangular set of retaining walls made to support the temple platform, and using extensive substructures and earth fills to give the natural hill a geometrically regular shape. On top of this box-like structure, Herod built a vast paved platform that surrounded the temple. Of the four retaining walls, the western one is considered closest to the former Holy of Holies, which makes it the most sacred site recognized by Judaism outside the previous temple platform. Just over half the wall's total height, including its 17 courses located below street level, dates from the end of the Second Temple period, and is commonly believed to have been built by Herod the Great starting in 19 BCE, although recent excavations indicate that the work was not finished by the time Herod died in 4 BCE. The very large stone blocks of the lower courses are Herodian. The courses of medium-sized stones above them were added during the Umayyad period. Is that like a Muslim period? The Umayyad Caliphate was the second of the four major caliphates established after the death of Muhammad. The caliphate was ruled by the Umayyad dynasty. The third caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate, Uthman ibn Affan, was also a member of the Umayyad dynasty, I guess. Okay, so it wasn't finished by the time Herod died in 4 BC. The very large stone blocks of the lower courses are Herodian. The courses of medium-sized stones above them were added during the Umayyad period, while the small stones of the uppermost courses are of more recent date, especially from the Ottoman period. The term Western Wall and its variations are mostly used in a narrow sense for the section traditionally used by Jews for prayer. It has also been called the Wailing Wall, referred to the practice of Jews weeping at the sight over the destruction of the temples. During the period of Christian Roman rule over Jerusalem, around 324 to 638, Jews were completely barred from Jerusalem except on Tisha B'Av, the day of national mourning for the temples, and on this day the Jews would weep at their holy places. The term Wailing Wall was thus almost exclusively used by Christians and was revived in the period of non-Jewish control between the establishment of British rule in 1920 and the Six-Day War in 1967. The term Wailing Wall is not used by religious Jews and increasingly not by many others who consider it derogatory. In a broader sense, Western Wall can refer to the entire 488 metre long or 1,601 foot retaining wall on the western side of the Temple Mount. The classic portion now faces the large plaza and the Jewish quarter and so forth. Whilst the wall was considered Muslim property as an integral part of the Haram-ish-Sharif and Waqf property on the Moroccan quarter, a right of Jewish prayer and pilgrimage existed as part of the status quo. This position was confirmed in the 1930 International Commission during the British Mandate period. The earliest source mentioning this specific site as a place of Jewish worship is from the 17th century. The previous sites used by Jews for mourning the destruction of the temple during periods when access to the city was prohibited to them lay to the east on the Mount of Olives and in the Kidron Valley below it. From the mid-19th century onwards, attempts to purchase rights to the wall and its immediate area were made by various Jews, but none was successful. With the rise of the Zionist movement, Zionism is an ideology and nationalist movement that espouses the establishment of and support for a Jewish state centered in the area roughly corresponding to Canaan, the Holy Land, the region of Palestine or Eretz Israel, etc., etc. And there's the Jewish Chronicle, like a newspaper, I guess, stating a solution of the Jewish question by Dr. Theodore Heriel. With the rise of the Zionist movement in the early 20th century, the wall became a source of friction between the Jewish and Muslim communities, the latter being worried that the wall could be used to further Jewish claims to the Temple Mount and thus Jerusalem. During this period, outbreaks of violence at the foot of the wall became commonplace, with a particular deadly riot in 1929 in which 133 Jews and 116 Arabs were killed, with many more people injured. After the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the eastern portion of Jerusalem was occupied by Jordan. Under Jordanian control, Jews were completely expelled from the Old City, including the Jewish quarter, and Jews were barred from entering the Old City for 19 years, effectively banning Jewish prayer at the site of the Western Wall. This period ended on June 10, 1967, when Israel gained control of the site following the Six-Day War. 3 days after establishing control over the Western Wall site, the Moroccan quarter was bulldozed by Israeli authorities to create space for what is now the Western Wall Plaza. There's a lot of references there, I guess. A lot of information there. Etymology: Western Wall. Early Jewish texts refer to a western wall of the temple, but there's doubt whether the texts were referring to the outer retaining wall called today the Western Wall, or to the western wall of the actual temple. The earliest Jewish use of the Hebrew term Ha-Kotel Ha-Ma-Aravi, the Western Wall, as referring to the wall visible today, was by the 11th century poet Ahimaaz bin Paltiel. And some more information on the Wailing Wall, and the Al-Burak Wall, pre-section of this entire wall, height, courses, building stones, the history, construction and destruction, 19 BCE to 70 CE. Whereas according to the biblical narrative, Solomon's temple, also known as the First Temple, was a temple in Jerusalem built under King Solomon's reign and completed in 957 BC. The temple was looted and then destroyed in 586 to 587 BCE. Late Roman and Byzantine periods, 135 to 638. Archaeology: early Muslim to Mamluk period, 638 to 1517. The Ottoman period. Bit of information here by Rabbi Joseph Schwartz, writing in the mid-19th century records. This wall is visited by all our brothers on every feast and festival, and the large space at its foot is often so densely filled up that all cannot perform their devotions here at the same time. It is also visited, though by less numbers, on every Friday afternoon, and by some nearly every day. No one is molested in these visits by the Mohammedans or Islam, as we have a very old firman. This is like an agreement. A firman, or firman, Turkish, at the constitutional level, was a royal mandate or decree issued by a sovereign in an Islamic state. During various periods they were collected and applied as traditional bodies of law. Okay. And these visits by the Mohammedans, as we have a very old firman from the Sultan of Constantinople, that the approach shall not be denied to us, though the port obtains for this privilege a special tax, which is however quite insignificant. It didn't really matter by the sounds of it. In 1887, Baron Abraham Edmund Benjamin James de Rothschild was a French member of the Rothschild banking family. A strong supporter of Zionism, his large donations left significant support to the Murray movements during its early beginnings, I guess. More information there. In 1895, Hebrew linguist and publisher Rabbi Chaim Hirschin Sohn became entangled in a failed effort to purchase the Western Wall and lost all his assets. The attempts of the Palestine Land Development Company to purchase the environs of the Western Wall for the Jews just before the outbreak of World War I also never came to fruition. In the first 2 months following the Ottoman Empire's entry into the First World War, the Turkish governor of Jerusalem, Zeki Bey, offered to sell the Moroccan quarter, which consisted of about 25 houses, to the Jews in order to enlarge the area available to them for prayer. He requested a sum of £20,000, which would be used to both rehouse the Muslim families and to create a public garden in front of the wall. However, the Jews of the city lacked the necessary funds. A few months later, under Muslim Arab pressure on the Turkish authorities in Jerusalem, Jews became forbidden by official decree to place benches and light candles at the wall. This sour turn in relations was taken up by the Chakram Bashi, who managed to get the ban overturned. In 1915, it was reported that to Jamal Pasha closed off the wall to visitation as a sanitary measure. Probably meant was the great rather than the small to Jamal Pasha and so forth. And then British rule 1917 to 48. In December 1917, Allied forces under Edmund Allenby captured Jerusalem. Edmund Allenby. Field Marshal Edmund Hinman Allenby, 1st Viscount Allenby, was an English soldier and British Imperial Governor. He fought in the Second World War and also the First World War, in which he led the British Empire's Egyptian section or something, or brigade, and so forth. 1928 disturbances. 1929 Palestine riots. Jordanian rule, etc., etc. Okay, so that's where they go and they worship. These Jews worship. They wail at that wall, and I guess non-Jews, etc., put their prayer requests in the wall. Some people say they secretly take them and throw them in the rubbish or something like that. But who knows? I don't know. I've never been there. Have friends that have, but I've never been there. Okay, and you wonder what Jerusalem looked like? There's a small video here that we found. Not very long.
Thousands of Christians visit biblical sites in Israel each year. Now they can enjoy a new tour that uses artifacts to bring to life details from the time of Jesus. This giant model of Jerusalem from the Second Jewish Temple period begins the Cradle of Christianity tour. Visitors to the Israel Museum see artifacts that will enhance stories in the Bible.
This is Jerusalem that Jesus knew. This is Jerusalem that Herod the Great built.
Senior curator David Meverach said the model will give Christians a better perspective of specific areas mentioned in Scripture.
The model, built in a scale of 1 to 50, shows these important sites that Jesus goes through. For instance, on my left are the pools of Bethesda, where Jesus performs one of his miracles of healing. It's all in the surrounding of this city, which has only one temple for one God.
The famous Shrine of the Book housing the Dead Sea Scrolls is the next stop. The scrolls include the oldest copies of books of the Hebrew Bible. And then there's the Temple Mount.
We still have the supporting walls of the Temple Mount. The Wailing Wall is the western wall of the support of this huge project. But only very few finds were left from the buildings itself. One of them is an inscription in Hebrew, a sign for the priest to stand and blow the horn for the entrance of Saturday, meaning the time to cease work, and again at the exit of Saturday, when you can resume work. The other sign is in Greek. It is the perimeter that surrounded the temple itself in the Temple Mount, with signs in Greek and in Latin forbidding Gentiles to enter the temple itself.
According to Meverach, it's rare to find artifacts that directly relate to historical figures.
In the case of the trial and crucifixion of Jesus, we've been extremely lucky. 3 finds relate directly to the story and to the details, and 2 of them relate directly to the most important people in these final days of Jesus.
One is an ossuary, a burial bone box inscribed with the name Joseph, son of Caiaphas, the high priest.
We are almost 100% sure that this is the Caiaphas that we know from the stories in the New Testament.
The second is a stone bearing the name of Pontius Pilate. And perhaps the most interesting artifact for Christians is evidence of the Roman practice of crucifixion found in a bone box.
This is the only find in the whole world of actual crucifixion.
And what do visitors have to say?
Just seeing the artifacts made it come alive, and to see what I've read about made it come alive in my life.
To see so many artifacts of world history and of our Christian faith in one place so quickly, and to be able to comprehend it so quickly is just really amazing, and it really confirms our faith. It confirms what the Bible teaches us, and teaches us the place of our Christian faith within world history context. It's outstanding.
Okay, that was fairly interesting. But the main purpose of this video is to prove whether that Wailing Wall, according to the rumours, is actually not where the world thinks it is. That Wailing Wall is Roman. So we'll listen to this video.
Could history be so stunningly wrong that the temples built by King Solomon and King Herod were never on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem? Jews and Christians alike believe without any doubt that these temples were located on the Temple Mount for hundreds of years. Hidden away in the temple's Holy of Holies rested the Ark of the Covenant. And so for Jews, the Temple Mount is the most holy place on earth. 1 billion Muslims hold this to be the most holy place as well, believing it to be where Muhammad ascended into heaven from the area of the Dome of the Rock. This presents a huge problem for several faiths that all clash at ground zero at a place in Jerusalem that we know as the Temple Mount. It should be no surprise that this is a most volatile piece of real estate where more blood has been spilt over the last 3,000 years than any other place on earth. Many believe this will be the site of World War III. But what if the Temple Mount is not the true location of the temples? Will tradition even allow a closer look? Do we find anywhere in the Bible, ancient history, or physical evidence that the temples were located somewhere else?
On the other side of this wall stood the first temple and the second temple. They were destroyed. And the third temple, when the Messiah comes, will come here on the other side of the wall. And we're told that God's revealed presence never left these stones from the time of the temple till now. And that's what we feel here when we come here. God's revealed presence.
This is the holiest place that we have right now. The third temple is going to come right here. Okay?
So without a doubt, you believe that
there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Although most people today are convinced that the temples were located on the Temple Mount, that wasn't the case 1,600 years ago.
if I told you in the 4th century there was 4 places that rabbis were suggesting for the temple, 4 different locations in the 4th century, would you believe me?
No, our tradition is that authoritative tradition wins out, and we go with what we have. We don't do our own thing. We don't try to make our own assumptions. We have what we have. If we don't have what our parents and rabbis gave us, then we have nothing.
Before somebody can come along and change what's already been established, they're going to have to be greater than the ones who established it.
Challenging a long-held tradition is not easy, but it's mandatory in our quest to find the truth.
Having a tradition challenged is never comfortable, and yet essential if we're going to really get at the truth and what really happened and what really is going to happen.
You are Jew? No, I have no time to lose with you.
Could it even be possible that the greatest archaeological mistake of all times has occurred in locating the temples of Herod and Solomon on the Temple Mount? And if so, where is the true location of the temple today? The prophetic implications are absolutely astounding, and the political repercussions from it could alter the entire complexion of the Middle East.
So that's a little snippet of a 30-minute video on YouTube. You can go watch it in your own time. We don't want to make this video too long. So if Christ said in the scriptures, look at this temple, this building will be completely flattened, no stone will be left on top of each other, be totally ruined. You either take the scriptures seriously or literally, or you don't. Okay. Either the scriptures are incorrect or they're correct, they're true, but you need to do your personal research, establish the facts, find the evidence that proves that Christ prophesied and predicted the ruin of this temple historically. Have a look at who entered the temple area, invaded it, destroyed it, set up a pagan banner in there, etc., etc., according to the real historical records. Because you have another guy, we're not going to switch to that video, but some people might not really like the guy, they might think he's weird or off his rocker, Brother Nathaniel, who talks extensively on the Wailing Wall not being what they claim it to be, but the remnants of the fort Antonia, the Roman fort that was surrounding the temple to quell any fights or uprisings or riots by zealots or whoever that happened there. And the Russian, and they sorted out. Yeah, they kept an eye on the people, kept them safe, but they also kept these uprisings, stopped these uprisings from happening, and so forth. So, hopefully you enjoyed this little video. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, add your comments, give us a like, and tell your friends, well, this is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And we've done our own personal research, and we agree that this Wailing Wall is not originally a temple wall, but it is Roman, because of that personal research we've done, that evidence we've found that actually proves it. And tell all your family, friends, church members, etc. about us, the Ministry of the Real Truth. We bring you the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We have no time for fluff or hype or other BS. And watch out for our next exciting in-depth video.